Good evening, everybody. Gee, like I'm in school or something. That's great. Welcome back to the extra class, or the last class of Macbeth. I'm going to ask that usual question. Is anyone here for the first time? Oh, well, one person. Yes, I did meet you. Yes, great. And was everyone here last week? Anybody not here last week? Oh, dear. That's a goodly number of hands to have missed the hand-washing scene. I mean, the sleepwalking scene. But that's okay, because we're going to look at that at the beginning here, because I read it. We ended with that last week. That's Act 5, Scene 1. And, you know, we can't just read a scene like that and let it fly by. It's sort of too incredible. But I do promise, dare I promise, that we will finish the play tonight, somehow. And hopefully within the appropriate amount of time, meaning before too very long. Okay? So that's Act 5, Scene 1. I want to say one other thing about a scene we did last week. And you needn't look back at it necessarily. It's the scene between Malcolm and Macduff in Act 4, Scene 3. And I just want to take note of many important things in that scene, but just one. When Malcolm, you remember, is describing to Macduff how much worse Malcolm, would be if he were to become King of Scotland. Way worse than Macbeth, right? Remember? And Macduff is like, oh, he's weeping for Scotland. This is terrible. How's that possible? Right? And Macduff says, well, we must have some of the other graces, even if you are lustful and avaricious. And Malcolm says, but I have none. The king becoming graces. And then he lists what those graces are. As justice. This is Act 4, Scene 3, line 90, if you care to look, but I'm just going to read it quick. The king becoming graces as justice, verity, temperance, stableness, bounty, perseverance, mercy, lowliness, devotion, patience, courage, fortitude. I have no relish of them at all. And I'm reading it because, of course, Malcolm has all of those qualities and will, I hate to give away the ending, ultimately be able to exercise them. But it's an example of, and also a tip of the hat, you might say, that Shakespeare's doing to King James of his time, in enumerating all these attributes that a great leader and a great king should have. So I thought that was kind of worthy of reminding us of again. So now we can jump to Act 5, Scene 1, Lady Macbeth once again. And I'll just kind of share, I don't know, we'll just go through it kind of quickly, okay? The doctor says, I have 2 nights watched with you, but can perceive no truth in your report. When was it she last walked? So the doctor is talking to a gentlewoman who has also been, you know, obviously by the side of Lady Macbeth. Gentlewoman says, since His Majesty went into the field, I've seen her rise from her bed, throw her nightgown upon her, unlock her closet, take forth paper, fold it, write upon it, read it, afterwards seal it. So the way letters were written back in the day was one sheet of paper, you'd write your letter, you would fold it and turn it into an envelope. Some people may still know how to do that without origami instructions, and then put a seal upon it, okay, to seal it. So that's what she's describing, right? Seal it, and again return to bed, yet all this while in a most fast sleep. Wow. The doctor says, a great perturbation in nature to receive at once the benefit of sleep and do the effects of watching meaning being awake. In this slumbery agitation, besides her walking and other actual performances, what at any time have you heard her say? Okay, so it's one thing to be walking and doing stuff. Did she say anything? Gentlewoman goes, that, sir, which I will not report after her. The doctor goes, oh, come on, you can tell me. In fact, you should tell me. She says, neither to you nor anyone, having no witness to confirm my speech. And then Lady Macbeth enters with a taper, with a candle. And gentleman says, lo, you, here she comes. This is her very guise, and upon my life, fast asleep. Observe her, stand close. So they step aside or they hide behind something, and in comes Lady Macbeth. And, I only read it last week, so I'm just going to make some comments as we go along, right? She can come in many ways. She can come in, oh, I'm sleepwalking, like this. She can come in very, 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 very quickly, going and doing what she needs to do, right? She comes in holding the candle. Does she hold the candle the whole time? Does she set the candle down so she can wash her hands? It's been done, in different ways. But nonetheless, the doctor says, how came she by that light? Gentlewoman says, why, it stood by her. She has light by her continually. 'Tis her command. For some reason, she doesn't want to sleep in the dark. Doctor says, you see, her eyes are open. Aye, but their sense is shut. What is it she does now? Look how she rubs her hands. It is an accustomed action with her, the gentlewoman says, to seem thus washing her hands. I have known her continue in this a quarter of an hour. So does she actually go over to a wash basin and wash her hands? No, it's all in her mind, right? So, quarter of an hour doing that. And Lady Macbeth famously says, yet here's a spot, right? And, again, use your imaginations or read it for yourselves after class of how you do it. You think I see? Is that a... Oh, yeah, here's a spot. Or, here's a spot. Or, there's a spot. Many, many ways, right? Hark, she speaks. I will set down what comes from her to satisfy my remembrance more strongly. So the doctor is taking notes. Out. Damn spot. Out, I say. 1, 2. Why, then 'tis time to do it. Hell is murky. Fie, my lord, fie, a soldier interfered? What need we fear? Who knows it, when none can call our power to account? Yet who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him? Right. So look what's going on with that. I'm not going to totally overly dramatize it like I did last week, I think. But I want you to realize that this is written in prose. I'll have a comment about that in a minute. And that her mind, the thoughts are disconnected, and yet they're very connected, right? The thoughts are, one doesn't necessarily relate to the other, but it really does. Is she remembering things that she said? Is she remembering things that he said, that Macbeth said, at certain points when she says, these very lines we just did. When she says, who knows it, when none can call our power to account. Here's a footnote from the 1800s. Reference seems to be here made to the ancient and fundamental principle of the English Constitution, that the king can do no wrong. Right? Because she said to Macbeth, look, who's going to blame us? Once it's done, we'll be king and queen. Hey! Sorry. But it's just a footnote from a long time ago. Don't take it to heart, anybody. At any rate, on he goes. The doctor says, do you mark? Oh, and then she says, yet who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him? So, of course, she's referring to Duncan. She doesn't say it by name, but that's who she means, referring to him as the old man. And the belief at the time was that your blood shrivels. There's not as much blood in you when you're older, right? But remember, this is the same old man about whom she had said, if he hadn't resembled my father, I would have done it. Right back in the scene when Macbeth did the murder. The doctor says, do you mark that? Lady Macbeth goes, the Thane of Fife had a wife. Does she sing it like a little nursery rhyme? Does she just remember it? The Thane of Fife had a wife. The Thane of Fife being the wife of Macduff. Where is she now? Where is she now? Where is she now? And then again, She says, what will these hands ne'er be clean? And when she's doing that, is she back to her hands, out damn spot? Or is she repeating what Macbeth said? The multitudinous seas, rather than all Neptune's waters will not wash these hands clean. Rather, the multitudinous seas incarnadine making the green one red. So is she really remembering Macbeth's inability to wash the blood off his hands? What will these hands ne'er be clean? And she says, no more of that, my lord, no more of that, you mar all with this starting. So it's all coming back to her. The doctor says, go to, you have known what you should not. He's saying to the gentlewoman. Gentlewoman says, she has spoke what she should not. I'm sure of that. Heaven knows what she has known. And then she goes, here's the smell of the blood still. Right? All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand. So, in a variation on the multitudinous seas incarnadine, to wash the blood away, and then she gives this which on the page is just but it's really a big, huge, long sigh. Okay, I'll share a little footnote here from 1889. We cannot help being reminded by this scene of that pathetic description of the last days of Queen Elizabeth. And when we read Sir Robert Carey's touching account of his interview with her, she took me by the hand, wrung it hard, and said, no, Robin, I am not well. And then discoursed with me of her indisposition. And in her discourse she fetched not so few as 40 or 50 great sighs. I was grieved at first to see her in this plight, for in my lifetime before I never knew her fetch a sigh, but when the Queen of Scots was beheaded. Don't you find that an interesting footnote of somebody who was there when Queen Elizabeth was dying, if that's true? That the only time she gave a cry akin to this one that Lady Macbeth is doing was when, of all people, Mary Queen of Scots was killed. But anyway, all right. You see, I'm reading fast so I can get these little tidbits in there for everybody. Okay? And so, she gives this great cry. And however actresses do it, I mean, the doctor then says, oh, what a sigh was there. The heart is sorely charged. And the gentleman says, I would not have such a heart in my bosom for the dignity of the whole body. Well, pray God it be, sir. I hope it be well. He's just saying, well, shaking his head. I hope things turn out well. The doctor says, this disease is beyond my practice. We'll see him speak about that again shortly. Yet I have known those which have walked in their sleep who have died holily in their beds. Now, to us it's like, oh, of course you can sleepwalk and die in peace. It doesn't necessarily mean something terrible. But again, there's a footnote here that kind of suggests that Shakespeare put that in there so that his audience wouldn't worry, oh my God, I've been walking in my sleep lately, what's going to happen to me, right? So that it's possible you can still have a happy end, all right? Even though obviously she looks like she's not going to. All right, and then she says, wash your hands, put on your nightgown, look not so pale, I tell you again, Banquo is buried, he cannot come out on his grave, of his grave. So that's coming to him. And the doctor goes, even so. To bed. There's knocking at the gate. Come, give me your hand. What's done cannot be undone. To bed. Will she now go to bed directly? And so indeed she does. And of course, with that line, what's done cannot be undone, is of course the great echo of Macbeth's early soliloquy, if it were done when 'tis done, 'twere well it were done quickly. The assassination and betrayal of the consequence. Well now, again, many references in this play to do, done, and all of its cognates, but there she is saying that. What's done cannot be undone. All right? I think there's one more thing. Oh, yeah, was it here? Or is it here? Maybe it was somewhere else. Let me see. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh, no. I think I showed it already, so that's good. All right. So, Wilson out of bed directly, and the doctor gets the last things to say. And I think the note I was looking for was talking about how much this whole scene is written in prose. And the commentators say things to the effect of, how could you try to even communicate this by trying to put it in regular versification? No, the mind, it's so brilliantly written because the mind is so fragmented in its thought process that the only way to really show that is in prose. Oh, but here's one other. Mrs. Siddons, one of the great actresses of back when told that Mrs. Siddons had exhausted all ideas about the part, especially with respect to the sleepwalking scene, this other actress replied in French, I don't know how to read the French, but the French was, I have an idea. I could lick my hand. That would be another way to do it, instead of, washing your hands in out damn spot. Everybody's done it a different way, so she came up with another idea. Actresses are always looking for, let me do it a way nobody ever did it. Get rid of that spot. I'm just saying. Anyway, okay. But as important or more important is the nature of the way it's written in that prose. Okay. All right, that took longer than planned, but I think we're good. Let's hear the doctor's last speech that is in verse, which kind of brings us back to reality a bit. The doctor says, foul whisperings are abroad, unnatural deeds do breed unnatural troubles. Infected minds to their deaf pillows will discharge their secrets. More needs she the divine than the physician. God forgive us all. A phrase I trust we've all said at one time or another, right? Just as an expression, right? Look after her, remove from her the means of all annoyance. Annoyance means harm. Take away from anything so she can't undo herself. And still keep eyes upon her. So good night. My mind she has mated and amazed my sight. I think, but dare not speak. Gentlewoman says, good night, good doctor. So amazed my sight, I mean, he's completely overwhelmed by what he has seen and now heard, and all the suggested evidence that she's confessed to, in a way, right, that he picks up on. All right. Act 5, Scene 2, with an eye on this wonderful book just here and now. Drum and colors. Bum, 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 da, 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 right, flags, right. Enter Monteith, Caithness, Angus, Lennox. We've met Angus and Lennox, maybe not Monteith and Caithness. These are all thanes, all great Scottish warriors and fighters. Monteith says, the English power is near, led on by Malcolm, his uncle Seward, and the good Macduff. Revenge is burning them for their dear causes, would to the bleeding and the grim alarm excite the mortified man. Angus goes, near Burnham Wood shall we meet them, that way they are coming. Are they coming? Caithness, who knows if Donalbain be with his brother? For certain, sir, he is not. I have a file of all the gentry. There is Seward's son, and many unrough youths that even now protest their first of manhood. Okay. And before we go on, so you understand, and I saw pages turning already. So the English power is near. We remember that Malcolm had fled to England, but Malcolm had told us in the previous scene that he had great support, 10,000 soldiers from Seward, and support of the King of England, though the King wouldn't appear in battle. And the good Macduff, revenge is burning them, right? Meaning they are burning with revenge, or they're burning from revenge on them. Well, as is true to the play Macbeth, it's both, right? For their dear causes would to the bleeding and the grim alarm excite the mortified man, and even the dead man would come to life, right? And Angus says the famous high school line, Burnham Wood, I know that, that's Macbeth, right? Near Burnham Wood shall we meet them, that way they are coming. Caithness says, who knows if Donalbain be with his brother? Remember, Donalbain is Malcolm's younger brother who fled to Ireland. Lennox says, for certain, sir, he is not. I have a list of all the gentry. There is Seward's son, who we will meet, and many unrough youths that even now protest their first of manhood. Monteith goes, what does the tyrant? Great Dunsinane he strongly fortifies. Some say he's mad. Others that lesser hate him do call it epic fury. No, I'm sorry, do call it valiant fury. I couldn't help but stumble over that line when I came across it the first time. Do call it valiant fury, but for certain he cannot buckle his distempered cause within the belt of rule. You got that sentence? It's another image of clothing, right? He cannot buckle his distempered cause within the belt of rule. And some say he's crazy. Those that lesser hate him call it valiant fury. Angus goes on, he says, now does he feel his secret murder sticking on his hands. Now minutely revolts upbraid his faith breach. Those he commands move only in command, nothing in love. Now does he feel his title hang loose about him, like a giant's robe upon a dwarfish thief. So extending that image of clothing, right? And Monteith says, who then, look what Monteith says, who then shall blame his pestered senses to recoil and start, when all that is within him does condemn itself for being there? Right? These are great little lines that small characters have. But just stop a minute and look at that, right? His pestered senses recoil and start when all that is within him does condemn itself for being there. That's how bad he must feel inside if he digs deep, right? And Caithness goes, well, march we on to give obedience where 'tis truly owed. Meet we the medicine of the sickly weal, and with him pour we in our country's purge, each drop of us, or so much as it needs to dew the sovereign flower and drown the weeds. Make we our march towards Burnham. And meeting the medicine of the sickly weal, of course, means let's go meet Malcolm, Seward, the forces from England, from Edward the Confessor that have been sent to join us to heal this country, okay, and purge it of this evil. And they exit marching. Act 5, Scene 3. Enter Macbeth. Let me make sure I'm good here. I think so. Yeah. All right. Enter Macbeth, doctor, yes, the same doctor, and attendants. And this is what he says to start with. And, you know, we haven't seen him in a while, actually, have we? Bring me no more reports. Let them fly all till Burnham would remove to Dunsinane. I cannot taint with fear. What's the boy, Malcolm? Was he not born of woman? The spirits that know all mortal consequences have pronounced me thus. Fear not, Macbeth. No man that's born of woman shall e'er have power upon thee. Then fly, false things, and mingle with the English epicures. The mind I sway by, and the heart I bear, shall never sag with doubt, nor shake with fear. And a servant comes in, and he sees his face, and he says, Devil damn thee black, thou cream-faced loon! Where got'st thou that goose look? There is 10,000 geese, villain! Soldiers, sir! Prick thy face and overrid thy fear, thou lily-livered boy! What soldiers, patch? Death of thy soul, those linen cheeks of thine are counselors to fear! What soldiers, wayface? The English force, please you, take thy face hence! The servant leaves, and he calls for his servant, Satan. It looks like Satan, it's pronounced like Satan, but it's spelled S-E-Y-T-O-N. Satan! I am sick of heart when I behold Satan, I say! This push will cheer me ever or deceit me now. I have lived long enough. My way of life is fallen into the seer, the yellow leaf, and that which should accompany old age as honor, love, obedience, troops of friends, I must not look to have, but in their stead, curses, not loud, but deep, mouth honor, breath which the poor heart would fain deny and dare not. Satan! What's your gracious pleasure? What news more? All is confirmed, my lord, which was reported. I'll fight till from my bones my flesh be hacked. Give me my armor. It is not needed yet. I'll put it on. Send out more horses. Scare the country round. Hang those that talk of fear. Give me mine armor. And then he's going to turn and say, how does your patient, doctor? But let's go back before we go forward. I know we want to go forward, and so do I. But let's go back. All right, to the beginning of Act 5, Scene 3. Okay. So he's saying to whatever attendant or servant had just come in, bring me no more reports. Let them fly all. Till Burnham Wood removed to Dunsinane, I got nothing to worry about. Right? Doesn't say that. He says, I cannot taint with fear. No fear, I'm nothing to be afraid of. What's the boy, Malcolm? Was he not born of woman? Ha! The spirits that know all mortal consequences. There's the word consequences. The other part of that earlier soliloquy. If the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with his Circe success, then everything would be great. Well, anyway, the spirits that know all mortal consequences have pronounced me thus. They said, fear not, Macbeth, no man that's born of woman shall ever have power upon thee. Then fly, false things, mingle with the English epicures. The mind I sway by, and the heart I bear, shall never sag with doubt, nor shake with fear. Oh, really? What happens the very next second? In comes this pale-faced servant, like this. And he sees him, and he goes, the devil damn thee, black thou cream-faced loon. And loon to us means a loony, but loon was also a Scottish word, looned or lound, which meant a knave or a villain, right? That cream-faced loon, where gott's thou that goose look? And the servant goes, humana, there's 10,000, right? And Macbeth goes, geese, villain, soldiers, sir. And he hears that, and he goes, go prick thy face and overred thy fear, right? Cut yourself in the face so the pale look becomes red, right? Thou lily-livered boy. What soldiers, patch? Death of thy soul, those linen cheeks of thine are counselors to fear. What soldiers, Wayface? And you'll hear in this scene and through to the end how much he rails against the very idea of fear, okay? And we can look at that any way we want to, but there is something fearless about it and maybe admirable in that way, but we can make that judgment. What soldiers, Wayface, the English force so please you. Take thy face hence. And the servant leaves. Oh, cell phones off, please, if you could. Unless there are bells tolling, which I don't think are happening. Anyway. So, you know, the doctor, remember, the entrance said, enter Macbeth and doctor. So the doctor is there on the stage. We haven't heard him say anything yet, so maybe he's hanging out in the back or wherever he may be. Servant leaves, Macbeth goes, Satan! I am sick at heart when I behold, and maybe he was going to say, I'm sick at heart when I behold the idea of them having so many soldiers, right? But he says, Satan, I say, this push will cheer me ever or disseat me now. This push meaning this fight, this battle that's about to come, will cheer me, or as it might have been said, I don't have a great Scottish accent, you know, but it might be this push will cheer me ever or disseat me now. So if he says cheer me ever, did he say cheer or did he say chair? And if he says chair, it makes sense because the next part is deceit me now. So this push, this battle will either set me in the chair of the throne or it'll unseat me, deceit me. But he says, I have lived long enough. My way of life Many a footnote will say, my May of life is fallen into the sere, the yellow leaf. The leaves at the top of trees as they're about to turn color as the autumn comes. My way of life, or my May of life, is fallen into the sere, the yellow leaf. And that which should accompany old age, as honor, love, obedience, troops of friends. That troops of friends is it's actually an echo of Richard II, if anybody remembers doing Richard II ages ago, where Richard II goes, I need friends, want friends, of all the things that he feels he lacks when he feels so isolated. Here he is saying, troops of friends I must not look to have, but in their stead, curses, not loud, but deep, mouth honor. What a great phrase, right? Just saying things that are right? And breath which the poor heart would fain deny and dare not. In other words, people are flattering me and saying things because they dare not say no, because they're scared of me. In other words, he's reaffirming what Monteith and Caithness had said. People follow you under command, but not out of love. He knows it. Calls Satan again. What's your gracious pleasure? What news more? All is confirmed, my lord, which was reported. I'll fight till from my bones my flesh be hacked. Give me my armor. Satan, 'tis not needed yet. I'll put it on. Send out more horses, scour the country round, scour the country. Hang those that talk of fear. Give me mine armor. And remember how the play started. It didn't start with him right away, but it started with that great news from the bloody sergeant at the beginning and from the other thanes of how valiant and bloody a warrior Macbeth was on the battlefield. Okay. And then he turns to the doctor. So maybe as he's putting his armor on, it says, how does your patient, doctor? Not so sick, my lord, as she is troubled with thick coming fancies that keep her from her rest. Cure her of that. Canst thou not minister to a mind diseased? Pluck from the memory a rooted sorrow? Raise out the written troubles of the brain, and with some sweet oblivious antidote cleanse the stuffed bosom of that perilous stuff which weighs upon the heart? Therein the patient must minister to himself. Throw physic to the dogs. None of it. Come, put mine armor on, give me my staff. Satan, send out. Doctor, the thanes fly from me. Come, sir, dispatch her. If thou couldst, doctor, cast the water of my land, find her disease, and purge it to a sound and pristine health, I would applaud thee to the very echo that should applaud again. Put off, I say. What? Rhubarb, cinnamon, or the purgative drug would scour these English hence. Hearest thou of them? Aye, my good lord, your royal preparation makes us hear something. Bring it after me. I will not be afraid of death and bane, till Burnham Forest come to Dunsinane. They all leave except for the doctor, who goes, were I from Dunsinane away and clear, profit again should hardly draw me here. Right, let's go back over this, because it's more great stuff in this great play. All right. So let's go back just to this last part of when Satan comes in. Oh, when he turns to the doctor and says, "How does your patient, doctor?" And the doctor, of course, responds, saying, "Not so sick, right? Not so sick, my lord, as she is troubled with thick coming fancies that keep her from her rest." Right? And we obviously have just seen that keep her awake. And what does Macbeth say? And it's also a famous passage from the play, right? Cure her of that and then says, "Canst thou not minister to a mind diseased?" And you often read it or hear it as, "Canst thou not minister to a mind diseased?" No, it's, "Canst thou not minister to a mind diseased?" Maybe you're good at the physical stuff and healing wounds in battle, but can you heal this? And is he talking about her? Is he talking about himself? Note from long ago, he is asking for himself more than his wife. The allusion here to a mind disease and to these terrible dreams which shake us nightly that Macbeth had said in Act 3. And Lady Macbeth's words earlier in the play when she says, "You lack the season of all natures, sleep," make us inclined to think that after the murder of Duncan, Macbeth was in a state of delirium produced by insomnia. And I think I brought that up long ago after the murder when he comes in and he says, "I heard a voice say, 'Sleep no more, Macbeth hath murdered sleep, he shall sleep no more.'" Well, and the burden for the actor, even though he has that wonderful break in the first part of Act 4 where he's not on stage, by this point, and we all know I trust we all know what it's like to lose a night of sleep, unless you're catching up on it right here, which could be, you lose enough sleep, you start to lose it, right? So he's saying, "Canst thou not minister to a mind disease?" And then he goes on, "Pluck from the memory a rooted sorrow," right? A sorrow that's rooted itself there. Raise out, carve out, right? The written troubles of the brain. Just get rid of them. And with some sweet, oblivious antidote. And remember, he and Banquo, when they met the witches, said, "Have we eaten from the insane root?" Right? Did we just take some mushrooms? What happened here? Here he's saying, is there no sweet, oblivious antidote to cleanse the stuffed bosom of that perilous stuff which weighs upon the heart? And he's asking him, while he's putting his armor on, he's asking this, right? Having his armor put on him, probably. And he's quite serious. And we may think at first, of course, he's talking about Lady Macbeth, because he just asked, "How does your patient?" But I think it's pretty clear that it's self-reflective as well. And the doctor's answer is in a passive case, "Therein the patient must minister to himself." And he says, "Throw physic to the dog's physic being medicine." So much for cures, right? Go to hell, right? I'll none of it. Come on, put my armor on. Give me my staff. Satan send out. Doctor, here's one more thing for the doctor. "The thanes fly from me." Come on, sir, dispatch. "If thou couldst, doctor, cast the water of my lamp." If you remember, maybe something from Henry IV, Part 2, I think it is, when Falstaff comes in and he asks the little page, "What did the doctor say about my water?" And he said, "The water looks pretty good, but the person who owns it, I think, has some problems," right? So that's the kind of water that he's talking about, right? He says, "Can you cast the water of my land? Find her disease and purge it to a sound and pristine health. If you could, I would applaud thee to the very echo that should applaud again. Pull it off, I say." Those little interjections are because somebody's helping him put his armor on. Much the way you may remember, some of you were here a few years ago, Antony is Cleopatra's helping Antony put his armor on. It's a similar sort of moment. And then he says, again invoking herbal remedies, "What rhubarb, sin, or senna, or what purgative drug would scour these English hence? Here's the problem. I, my good lord, your royal preparation makes me hear something, then bring it after me." He's telling his assistant with whatever weapons or whatever it is. "I will not be afraid of death and bane, till Burnin Forest come to Dunsinane." Dunsinane being the castle that he is in and that's fortified to protect him. Exit all the doctor, and the doctor says, "Were I from Dunsinane away and clear, profit again should hardly draw me here." So it's kind of a satirical joke about doctors going where the sickness is so they can make their living. But he's saying, I get out of here happily and I'll really come back for the money. This is no place to be. All right? Maketh sense? Too fast? Not too fast? Okay. All right. Just a sip. And Act 5, Scene 4. Drum and colors. Once again, I don't know, the Scottish anthem, whatever it is, okay, or the English. Drum and colors enter Malcolm, Seward, Macduff, Seward's son, so there's Seward on the English side, and his son, Monteith, Caithness, Angus, and soldiers marching. Big scene, right? And Malcolm goes, cousins, I hope the days are near at hand that Chambers will be safe. We doubted nothing. What wood is this before us? The wood of Burnham. Let every soldier hew him down a bough, and bear it before him. Thereby shall we shadow the numbers of our host, and make discovery err in report of us. The soldier goes, it shall be done. We learn no other, but the confident tyrant keeps still in Dunsinane, and will endure our setting down before't. 'Tis his main hope, for where there is advantage to be given, both more and less have given him the revolt, and none serve with him but constrained things, whose hearts are absent too. Let our just censures attend the true event, and put we on industrious soldiership. So the time approaches that will with due decision make us know what we shall say we have, and what we owe. Owe meaning own. Right? Thoughts speculative, their unsure hopes relate, but certain issue strokes must arbitrate, towards which advance the war, and off they go. So, what's happened in this little scene that flies by so quick you're not entirely sure what they're talking about, except for some branches that you see chopped off, right? So, Malcolm says at the beginning, I hope the days are near at hand that Chambers will be safe. Chambers are rooms where we live, the place where they found Lady Macduff and the kid and her family. I hope it will be safe. Monteith, we doubted nothing. What is this wood? The wood of Burnham. Malcolm surveys the wood and says, let every soldier hew him down a bough. Now there's a rather long note that I won't entirely share, but the idea of chopping down the wood and holding up a bough to disguise the number in the army did not originate with Macbeth and Shakespeare in this play, much as, I wanted to think so. But no, it actually goes back to many sources before. Arabian sources, possibly Roman sources, but I'm not going to show the specifics of that, but just to say. So he says, let every soldier hew him down a bough and bear it before him, thereby shall we shadow the numbers of our host, and make discovery err in report of us. So people will say, I think there's only 500, when actually there's 5,000, right? Soldier, it shall be done. Seward says, we learn no other, but the confident tyrant keeps still in Dunsinane, and will endure our setting down before it. So they're doing a siege, basically, on the castle. They're not coming out to fight, Macbeth isn't. Malcolm says, 'tis his main hope, for where there is advantage to be given, both more and less have given him the revolt. Meaning, both people of higher status, aristocratic, and the lower people are all rebelling against him. Nobody really wants to follow him. None serve with him but constrained things, whose hearts are absent too. So we're hearing more evidence that Macbeth is really losing the support of his people. Right? Macduff says, let our just censures attend the true event, and put we on industrious soldiership. Macduff is definitely ready for the fight, right? Seward, the time approaches that will, with due decision, make us know, the time will let us know, what we shall say we have and what we own, or what we have and what we owe, what we do have, what we don't have. Thoughts speculative, their unsure hopes relate, but certain issue, strokes must arbitrate. What is he saying? We don't know how it's going to be. It could be this way, it could be that way. We're not sure, maybe. I know how to decide. Raise your swords, everybody. That's the only way. There's no other way. Let's go. All right? And off they go, marching. Act 5, scene 4. Enter Macbeth, Satan, and soldiers with drum and colors. Okay? So I hope you're getting the feeling, though it's just sort of a one-man attempt at trying to do it with great help from the graphics. Yeah, that's a pretty big Macbeth, I think. There he is. That there is battle going on, or there's impending battle going on in preparation, right? So, enter Macbeth, Satan, and soldiers with drum and colors of their own. Macbeth goes, hang out our banners on the outward walls, right? The cry is still they come. Our castle strength will laugh a siege to scorn. Here let them lie till famine and the ague eat them up. Were they not forced with those that should be ours? We might have met them dareful, beard to beard, and beat them backward home. Right? So he's saying, put this on the banners on the outward walls of the castle. I still hear them saying, they're coming, they're coming. I'm not worried about it. Our castle will laugh a siege to scorn. That's how strong our castle is, right? And let them lie there till famine and the ague eat them up. And indeed, you know, if you're laying siege to a castle, yes, indeed, it's tough on the castle to get their reinforcements, their supplies. You know what? It's also tough on the people laying the siege if they don't have supplies and backup for them. So he's saying, we've got plenty, we're in good shape, let them rot, right? Till famine and the ague, fever eat them up. Were they not forced with those that should be ours, we might have met them dareful beard to beard and beat them backward home. In other words, if they didn't have some people who used to be on our side, on their side, we'd all get out there and kick butt and kill them all. But no. And that's his attitude, and that's what he's saying, and then or some variation on it. I shouldn't be so close to them. There's a cry of women. What is that noise? Just the cry of women, my good lord. I have almost forgot the taste it fears. Time has been my sense would have cooled to hear a night shriek. My fell of hair would at a dismal treatise rouse and stir as life were in it. I have supped full with horrors. Direness, familiar to my slaughterhouse thoughts, cannot once start me. Wherefore was that cry? The queen of my lord is dead. She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word. Tomorrow. And tomorrow. And tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools away to dusty death. Out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, of sound, fury, signifying nothing. Our chance to use thy tongue, thy story quickly. Gracious my lord, I should report that which I say I saw, but know not how to do it. Well, say, sir, as I did stand my watch upon the hill, I looked toward Burnham, and anon methought the wood began to move. Liar and slave! Let me endure your wrath if it be not so. Within this 3 mile may you see it coming, I say, a moving grove. If love speaks false, upon the next tree shalt thou hang alive till famine cling thee. If thy speech be sooth, I care not if thou dost for me as much. I pull in resolution and begin to doubt the equivocation of the fiend that lies like truth. Fear not, till Burnham wood do come to Dunsinane, and now a wood comes towards Dunsinane. Arm and out! If this which he avouches does appear, there is nor flying hence, nor tarrying here. Begin to be aweary of the sun, and wish the estate of the world were now undone. Ring the alarm bell! Blow, wind, come, rack! At least we'll die with harness on our back. Drums and trumpets, but let's take a pause. Rush to the end. How can I not stop reading this at this point? But, gotta go back a little bit. It's a rather important speech, I think, and a rather important moment in our play, in the history of Shakespeare, in the history of literature, right? And a speech I'm sure you all know, perhaps even know by heart, who knows, right? But let's look at what happens here. Before the cry of women, right, he has just said, I'm back at the beginning of 5:5. Hang out the banners on the outward walls. The cry is still, they come. Our castle strength will laugh a siege to scorn. Here let them lie till famine and eat them up, right? And then we hear this cry, and he says, what's that noise? Satan says it's the cry of women. And he says, I have almost forgot the taste of fears. There's the word fears again. Time has been, the time was, my senses would have cooled. Some will say the word should be coiled or recoiled, to hear a night shriek. And my hair would stand on end, right? Would rouse and stir as if life were in it. I have supped full with horrors. You better remember that banquet scene when he was supposed to sit down and there's Banquo's ghost there. I have supped full with horrors. Direness, familiar to my slaughterhouse thoughts, cannot once start me. So basically, my affect is gone. Nothing scares me anymore, and nothing can horrify me anymore, because I've seen it all, done it all. There's nothing to me, right? And then wherefore was that cry? Why was there a cry like that? And Satan says, the queen, my lord, is dead. So it was her women around her who were issuing that cry. And he says she should have died hereafter. All hail Macbeth, Thane of Corder. All hail Macbeth, Thane of Cloms. All hail Macbeth, that shalt be king hereafter. From back when. And when he comes and meets Lady Macbeth for the first time, she remembers from the letter that he wrote, that shalt be king hereafter. Here he says she should have died hereafter. So on one level, whether he means it consciously or not, it's once we were happily here and this was done. But he's really just saying in a play that is all about time, about today, yesterday, tomorrow, coming to its peak in this speech. She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word. Though some say there would have been a time for such a word. I go, okay, there would have been a time. To me, it's there would have been a time for such a word. Not today, tomorrow. And even though I didn't read it this way just now, I'm not sure how I read it exactly. There would have been a time for such a word tomorrow. And tomorrow. And tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day. to the last syllable of recorded time. All right, famous lines. But here, the idea of she should have died hereafter, she should have died tomorrow. He now sees what his tomorrows are, now that his partner in greatness, who he's lost long ago in a way, but now she's gone, right? Creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And recorded time past, recorded time future. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. So he's just talked about tomorrow, he's just referred to yesterday, lighting fools the way to dusty death. Because each yesterday makes you go, tomorrow we're going to get it. Tomorrow we're going to win it. Tomorrow we'll have it. The sun will come out tomorrow. We're going to get it tomorrow. I know it'll happen tomorrow. If it didn't happen today, come on, people, it's going to happen tomorrow. Wait till next year. All our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. More famous lines, right? So what is he talking about, a candle? He's talking about her, of course, primarily, right? She embodied by the candle that he knew she kept by her side every night. And is it a question? There's some editions or some suggestions that it's out, brief candle? Like, I can't believe it's out. Or it could not be, it could just be out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, and often read, life's but a walking shadow. You know, when you're reciting it, and you hear people recite it often who just know, I know that by heart. And I mean even pretty good actors, actually, right? But look at what he's saying. Life's but a walking shadow. What is a candle? A candle is a walking shadow, is it not? Right? It's moving and it usually casts a shadow of a kind. Life is but a walking shadow. Poof, like that. And then he takes it from that because shadow, as many of you may know, means not just shadow, but it means actor in Elizabethan times and terms. So I got lots of notes. We'll see if we have time for any of this at the end. A walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. Just like the actor who's speaking, who's playing the part. Just like me tonight, actually, in a way, I guess, right? Frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told, T-O-L-D, telling, T-O-L-L-E-D, told, for whom the bell tolls, told by an idiot. Ding dong, another life is gone. Ding dong, right? Full of sound and fury, signifying, and we have our interpretive signifying, representing, symbolizing, meaning, having a larger representation that will mean nothing. Sorry, folks. Nothing. And, once again, out of context, if you've been here with me for years, I sometimes digress and rail about, don't take Shakespeare's famous speeches and expressions out of context. It's like quoting the Bible and saying, it says this in the Bible, so they must mean this. No, wait a minute, it says this later in the Bible, and it means that. So don't get the idea that this is Shakespeare's eternal pessimistic view of life, tomorrow and tomorrow, signifying nothing. No, it's Macbeth in this moment, in this play, having gone the trajectory of all that he's been through, including what he was through as a great warrior beforehand, and all the blood that he wreaked and saw. Told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. And I know there's probably more to say about it. There is, but let me try to go on a little bit from there. And of course, I don't have to remind us all, Sound and Fury, the Faulkner book, and, various, pick your 3 words that people haven't plucked out of Shakespeare and turned into a movie, or turned into a book title or something, so many. But there he is. At this point, he was already going downhill and talking about the yellow leaf and the cedar and my life. I have no friends, and this is what I've come to. And I'm sick and weary of life. He had said that before. Well, now this happened. So monster that he may have been, and murderer that he is, you know, hard not to kind of look at him a little bit with a little bit of, whew, right? And surely with a lot of, I'm glad I didn't go there, right? So, messenger comes in. There comes to use thy tongue, thy story quickly. Messenger says, gracious my lord, I should report that which I say I saw, but know not how to do it. Well, say, sir, come on, tell me. As I did stand my watch upon the hill, I looked toward Burnham, and anon, methought the wood began to move. Macbeth hears this, and he just says, liar and slave. And he just says, let me endure your wrath. He probably yells, liar and slave, and whacks him, perhaps, right? Let me endure your wrath, if it be not so. Within this 3 mile may you see it coming, I say, a moving grove. And Macbeth goes, if thou speaks false, upon the next tree shalt thou hang alive, till famine cling thee. I mean to keep elaborating on various methods of death and torture in Shakespeare plays, but that's not a pleasant one, right? And then he says, you know, if thy speech be sooth, if it's true, I care not if thou dost for me as much. I pull in resolution. I pull, or I pall in resolution, or I pale in resolution. It could be any of those, right? It's usually written as I pull in resolution and begin to doubt, another word for fear, the equivocation of the fiend. Remember, we spent a lot of time talking about equivocation and the porter scene about, an equivocator, because, just to take us all back, we have a minute to do so, time to do so, all the way back to the gunpowder plot and the Jesuit Father Garnet, who was accused with other plotters, and their way of testifying and answering was devising these methods of equivocation, of saying exactly what you don't mean so that you can think that they understand that you really did mean it, although you're not sure about it. Yes, I am. Right. Okay. Equivocation, and now he's realizing, I pull in resolution, begin to doubt the equivocation of the fiend that lies like truth. Fear not till Burnham would do come to Dunsinane, and now a wood comes toward Dunsinane. And instead of laying down and dying and saying, okay, you got me, he says, arm and out. If this which ye avouches does appear, there is nor flying hence, nor tarrying here. There's no point in staying here and waiting for the siege to be done. Or running away from it. Time to fight. But even though it's time to fight, he says, I begin to be aweary of the sun, and wish the estate of the world were now, what? Undone. Who wrote this play? I think he knew what he was doing somehow, right? Ring the alarm bell. Where did we hear the phrase, ring the alarm bell? When Macduff came out of Duncan's room after Duncan was killed and said, the temple is destroyed, and then he says, ring the alarm bell, Banquo, wake everybody up, right? Here is he saying, ring the alarm bell, blow wind, not crack your cheeks, that's a different play, but still, come rack, at least we'll die with harness on our back, so put on the rest of my armor and everything, let's go fight. And he goes back to his true nature as a warrior and is ready to truly face the music, whatever's going to come. Act 5, Scene 6. Drum and colors. Enter Malcolm, Seward, Macduff, and their army with boughs, with these great props of branches in front of them. Malcolm says, now near enough. Your leafy screens throw down and show like those you are. You worthy uncle, shall with my cousin, your right noble son, lead our first battle. Worthy Macduff, and we shall take upon us what else remains to do, according to our order. So at yours fare you well. Do we but find the tyrant's power tonight, let us be beaten if we cannot fight. Macduff says, make all our trumpets speak, give them all breath, those clamorous harbingers of blood and death. Right, so they're all good Scotsmen and they know how to fight, right? So Macduff is calling for that. And alarms continue. Macbeth comes in, and he's in arm, and he's got a shield and a sword. They have tied me to a stake. I cannot fly, but bear like I must fight the course. What's he that was not born of woman? Such a one am I to fear, or none. And look when he says that line, right? that it's actually a curious thing. What's he that was not born of woman? So he's specifically saying, is there somebody here who was not born of woman? But he's also saying, rhetorically, what's he that was not born of woman? Everybody was. So even there the line has, which does it actually mean? Though from his point of view, of course, he's looking for someone who was actually not born of woman. It can't be. Such a one am I to fear or none. Young Seward comes in. So you understand Macbeth has his helmet on and all of that. Young Seward, what is thy name? Thou be afraid to hear it. No, though thou call'st thyself a hotter name than any is in hell. My name's Macbeth. The devil himself could not pronounce a title more hateful to mine ear. No, nor more fearful. Thou liest, abhorred tyrant. With my sword I'll prove the lie thou speakst. And young Seward fights with Macbeth. You have to take a minute and fight. See, there's a battle. The two of them are fighting, and Macbeth slays young Seward. Young Seward is slain. And Macbeth standing over him goes, thou was born a woman. But swords I smile at, weapons laugh to scorn, brandished by man that's of a woman born. And he exits with young Seward's body, taking it off stage. Alarms enter Macduff. Macduff goes, that way the noise is. Tyrant, show thy face. If thou be slain, and with no stroke of mine, my wife and children's ghosts will haunt me still. I cannot strike at wretched Carns, whose arms are hired to bear their staves. Either thou, Macbeth, or else my sword with an unbattered edge I sheathe again undeeded. There thou shouldst be. By this great clatter, one of greatest note seems bruited. Let me find him, fortune, and more I beg not. And he goes off looking for him. Alarums enter Malcolm and Seward, old Seward. Seward goes, this way, my lord. The castle's gently rendered. The tyrant's people on both sides do fight. The noble thanes do bravely in the war. The day almost itself professes yours, and little is to do. Malcolm goes, we have met with foes that strike beside us. Enter, sir, the castle. So what has he just said there? We have met with foes that strike beside us. It means either the enemies are striking beside, they've joined us, right? The castle is easy to enter. Or does it mean they strike beside us and they miss, right? And maybe they miss on purpose. Either way, okay, once again. Alarum, exit, in comes Macbeth. Why should I play the Roman fool and die on mine own sword? Whilst I see lives, the gashes do better upon them. And Macduff comes in. Turn, hellhound, turn! Of all men else I have avoided thee, but get thee back. My soul is too much charged with blood of thine already. I turn pages, but I have no words. My voice is in my sword. Thou bloodier villain than terms can give thee out. And they fight, and they fight, and they fight. And Macbeth, and they're grappling. And you can picture the two of them grappling each other as Macbeth says, thou losest labor. As easy mayest thou the entrenchant air with thy keen sword impress, as make me bleed. Let fall thy blade on vulnerable crests. I bear a charmed life, which must not yield to one of woman born. And maybe they break apart. And Duff says, spare thy charm, and let the angel whom thou still hast served tell thee, Macduff was from his mother's womb untimely ripped. Accursed be the tongue that tells me so. For is the coward my better part of man? And be these juggling fiends no more believed that palter with us in a double sense, that keep the word of promise to our ear and break it to our hope? I'll not fight with thee. Then yield, coward, and live to be the show and gaze of the time. We'll have thee, as our rare monsters are, painted upon a pole, and under it, here may you see the tyrant. I will not yield to kiss the ground before young Malcolm's feet, than to be baited with the rebel's curse. Thou Burnham would be come to Dunsinane, and thou opposed, being of no woman born. Yet I will try the last. Before my body I throw my warlike shield. Lay on, Macduff, and damned be him that first cries, hold, enough! And they fight, and they fight, and they fight, and they exit off stage, sound and sound, and they come back in fighting and fighting and fighting. And you have to picture, but there's not enough time for it, a battle. One goes down, the other gets up, the other gets up, the other goes down. They're against the wall, they roll over, they climb a tree, they come down, they fight, they fight, they fight. And Macbeth is slain. But is he slain on stage, or is he slain off stage? As originally written, it looked like he was slain off stage. But for many, many years, of course, it's done. And in movies, how could you do it otherwise? You gotta see it happen and see him slain. But it does say in my edition, exit Macduff with Macbeth's body. Gotta get the body off stage, everybody, right? Act 5, scene. Retreat and flourish. Enter with drum and colors Malcolm, Seward, Ross, thanes and soldiers. Malcolm says, I would the friends we miss were safe arrived. Seward, some must go off, and yet by these I see so great a day as this is cheaply bought. Meaning, most of our guys look like they're here. Malcolm says, Macduff is missing, and your noble son, he says to Seward. And Ross says, your son, my lord, has paid a soldier's debt. He only lived but till he was a man, the which no sooner had his prowess confirmed in the unshrinking station where he fought, but like a man he died. So because then he is dead. Aye, and brought off the field. Your cause of sorrow must not be measured by his worth, for then it hath no end. Get what that line means, right? Your cause of sorrow can't be measured by your son's worth, because then it'll never end. Your son was so worthy. Had he his hurts before, meaning were his wounds on the front or on the back? Ross says, I on the front. Seward goes, why then, God's soldier be he. Had I as many sons as I have heirs, or heirs, I would not wish them to a fairer death, and so his knell is knolled. Malcolm says he's worth more sorrow, and that I'll spend for him. Seward says he's worth no more. They say he parted well and paid his score, and so God be with him. Here comes newer comfort, and that's all about young Seward, right? Who died, who Macbeth killed. Macduff comes in with Macbeth's head. I thought about bringing the prop. I have one. I really did. I thought about it at one time. I could have put the crown on it and everything. Anyway.
That would have been entertaining on the train.
And Macduff, yeah, right. And Macduff says, Hail King! Remember, Malcolm says, Hail King, for so thou art. Behold where stands the usurper's cursed head. The time is free. I see thee compassed with thy kingdom's pearl. He's speaking to Malcolm. That speak my salutation in their minds, whose voices I desire aloud with mine. Hail, King of Scotland! And they all go, hail, everybody. Hail, King of Scotland! Well, that beats Toil and Trouble. That was good. And there's a flourish, right? And Malcolm goes, we shall not spend a large expense of time before we reckon with your several loves, and make us even with you. My thanes and kinsmen, planted newly with the time, as calling home our exiled friends abroad that fled the snares of watchful tyranny, producing forth the cruel ministers of this dead butcher and his fiend-like queen, who as 'tis thought by self and violent hands took off her life. This, and what needful else that calls upon us, by the grace of grace, we will perform in measure, time, and place. So, thanks to all at once and to each one, whom we invite to see us crown and scorn. Okay, so, last some things about that very ending. Of course, sometimes it comes in with the head, sometimes the head is planted on a pole, it's up there, take a look, it's up on a pike already, right? Macbeth says, "Hail King, for so thou art, behold where stands the usurper's cursed head." The time is free, right? The time is free. Now, time is free means, we're free of this tyrant. But time, this play that's been so tossed and blown between past and tomorrow and future and all of that, the time is now free, right? And I see thee compassed with thy kingdom's pearl. He's saying to Malcolm, I see you're surrounded by all the nobles of the kingdom. And let's all speak together, and they all kneel and say, "Hail, King of Scotland," right? And Malcolm goes, we're going to name you all Dukes of Earl. No, we're going to name you all Earls, right? And what else we have to do? We'll call our friends back home. And then makes this little aside reference. His fiend-like queen, who as 'tis thought, by self and violent hands took off her life. Well, we don't know that she took her life by self and violent hands. The only thing we have is this aside report from Malcolm. We don't know exactly how she died, but we certainly saw that she looked like she was not long for this world. Okay. I'm sure there's plenty more to say and share, but as 'tis, I have to go soon. So a question or a comment or anything you want to say, other than my saying happy summer to everybody and see you in the fall, I hope. But here's a question or a comment. Yes?
I don't know if I missed something, but back in...
It's got to be quick because I'm going to be X'd out of here. I got to get out of here, so got to be short and quick.
He says his secret murders
sticking on his hands.
How do they know that Macbeth was behind the whole thing?
Oh, by now they know.
We know that because we're reading it, but how did they know that?
Yeah, well, they know that from earlier scenes where rumors had been. There were scenes between, I think it's Ralston and Old Man, and another one where the word is out of the horrors. Even when Malcolm and Macduff were talking in that scene, and Macduff, they both are agreeing all these terrible things that have happened in Scotland. So you just got to go with it, that they know, I mean, it's a short play. Sage! Yes. How did I plan to finish this off? By waiting for Tammy to say, "You better get on the train." No, I took some notes and made some things, and then I just talk as fast as I can. But it's a fair question, it's part of organizing stuff. If you've ever... And in case you can't tell, I'm not the most organized professor in the world here. I'm not a professor. Or play one on TV. Anyway, I gotta go, so yes? Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, plenty comes of that, but it doesn't come right away. Right, that's a good question. What happened to the predictions of Banquo's children and heirs all in?
Yeah, what happened to that?
That eventually does happen, but for the purposes of the play, it goes as far as Malcolm, the throne being restored to Malcolm. In fact, I'll just tell you, at the end of Polanski's movie of it, he has Donalbain catching up with Malcolm, and then getting on his horse and going the other way to go talk to the witches and see what they have to say to him. Donalbain, the younger brother. So, history goes on. But that's a fair question, too. Yes, all the way in the back, yes. Last thing. As you're leaving, everybody, I hate to throw you out. I'm not throwing you out, but farewell again and happy summer. But go ahead.
Have a nice summer. See you in September.
the beginning, I was going over the play again from the top. The reason why they leave after the murder of Duncan is revealed, they look at each other and go, hey, we could be next, or we could be accused. So let's get out of here. And they do get out of here, and of course they're then accused of being the ones who did it. That's my short answer to that. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.